Welcome back to We Are Here. I'm your host, Chase Levitt, and today I am honored to be joined by Jody Lyman. Jody, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of
I've been
course.
looking forward to it.
Of course. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know Jody, she's the wife of Phil Lyman, who is currently running for governor here in Utah. I've had Phil on a few times, huge supporter of his campaign, and I had the idea of bringing Jody on. I was talking to someone the other night, and we're like, we should bring Jody onto the podcast. That'd be great to talk to her. I've gotten to know Jody a little bit the last little while, and she's great, so I'm honored to have her on. My first question for you, Jody, is what is it like being the wife of a guy that's running for governor? It's a big office that he's looking for, a lot of competition. He's going up against really all the odds. So what is that like?
It is incredibly busy. Our lives have taken a real shift in the amount of time we spend at home. We're on the road a lot. We live down in Blanding, Utah, and that's about 5 hours south of Salt Lake. And we've been all over the state doing meet and greets, and we've been going to Lincoln Day dinners. Uh, And we're used to traveling long distances because we are from Blanding, Utah. And when our kids were doing sports events, we would get in the car and drive to Richfield or Delta or up north. That is what we call the Wasatch Front to do that. So it's incredibly busy. And he knew it was an uphill battle from day one. He had no delusions as far as that goes. And it's been fun. It's so fun to meet all the different people, and it's fun to see different areas of the state and different seasons. I think I've been all over the state, but it's fun to see them in all the different seasons. And we
Right.
started last fall.
Right. You definitely get to feel a piece of all of Utah, from the north to the south, the east to the west, to the Wasatch Front. You just get to see it all, which is why campaigns can be hard for sure, but I'm sure it's definitely rewarding in that way.
Yeah, I'd say it's really rewarding. The people and seeing their issues, seeing that territory of land, and just seeing people engage. It's really encouraging to see how people engage and how they care about the communities in which they live and how they care about what goes on in the state, and they're interested, and it matters to them, and that's really rewarding and interesting to see the different areas of the state and how different laws and policy affects them.
Yeah, for sure. Now I want to ask you a little bit is what is kind of your role in the campaign? Usually, you'll see in politics, there's some spouses of people running for office where they're super involved, they're super, um, they help within the campaign. They're almost as a campaign manager of sorts. There's others that kind of stay away from it. Clearly, I can see that you're very involved, which is incredible. But what kind of role do you play specifically in the campaign?
Well, I wear many hats. I am very involved, but we have a wonderful team. Phil has a team of about 10 people with some little appendages on that help and have different roles and different responsibilities on the team. And I really appreciate all of them and all the work that they do. I uh, keep the family together. We have 5 children and 17 grandchildren. And while this is going on, I have the responsibility to keep in communication and keep the interest in their life alive and be aware of what's going on with them. So I also have that. I'm kind of the anchor for that. The other night, we went to a Lincoln Day dinner down in Moab. So we drove 4 hours south, about 4.5 hours south to Moab. And we left that night to come back up to Salt Lake because Phil's a legislator and we're in the legislative session. And when we got home, it was about 1:15, and he was speaking to the veterans in the morning at 9 o'clock in Lehi, and he needed a haircut. So here in the hotel, my son had met us in Blanding with, to pass off some stuff for us. And he'd come up from Blanding to Moab. So I had my hair cutting stuff and I gave him a haircut in the hotel bathroom, and he was ready to go at 9 in the morning. So I
Awesome.
have heroes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw when Phil posted that, late a late night haircut, getting ready. No, but that's awesome. I can definitely tell that. I mean, we've met in person a few times. Just getting to know you, that you're very involved, and I really commend you for that. Because a lot of spouses with people running for office either don't care or they're not um, accepting of it, or they just don't want any part of it. So it's really awesome to see that. Another thing I want to ask here is what were your thoughts when Phil first said, I want to run for the state legislature, and then to a few months ago when he said, I want to run for governor?
Oh my. Um, Politics has been part of our lives in a big way since he was in the commission. I know you know and are aware of our story of being in the commission and having stood up for the citizens of our county and had a protest ride after a town hall meeting. And the result of that, staying on a county road, not breaking any laws, and being commended the next morning, 5 months later, he was federally charged. And we had to go through the federal court system. And he was given a very large fine. They said there was no damage, but the road study to study if there was damage cost $98,000. So we had to pay that. Our attorney fees were very expensive. And then he spent 10 days in jail down at the Purgatory Correctional Facility, which was really kind of a life altering experience to go through all of that. It was very um, kind of life altering and very stressful. And as a family, we stuck together and went through that process. So I don't know how to say it, but to me, when he said he wanted to run for state legislature, that was nothing. It's like, okay, the other was
Yeah,
much harder. And when it came to saying that he wanted to run for governor, we talked about it and said, "Are you sure? You know, it's you're in the legislature. You've got a great voice." And he said, "I really feel compelled." He felt that he really needed to do that, and we've supported each other through whatever we've done in our life. And I have a lot of confidence in him. We've navigated some really difficult things, and I know he cares about the state. He's very smart. He understands taxes. He's a CPA. He understands land and water issues. He knows a lot about social issues from being in the legislature, reading and voting on bills, sitting on committees. He's got um, a broad background, and I had confidence. I thought, if you feel compelled, I support you 100%. As did all of our kids. He called them. We have a couple of sons that are doctors, and he wanted to make sure it didn't hurt their career in any way. And they said, "We don't worry about that. We're behind you 100%." So
that's awesome. That's awesome, and I'm beyond grateful that you both made that decision to jump in to this race, because we need people like Phil and people like you leading this state. It's really important. We've we've talked a lot about the campaign. Tell us a little bit more about you personally. Outside of politics, who's Jody Lyman?
oh gosh, I have to say that probably the heart of my soul is my family. Um, I'm totally dedicated to my children and grandchildren. Um, I was a stay-at-home mom for over 30 years, and I currently work as a travel nurse now, and I'm really grateful for this. I leave and go out of state for 1 week. Occasionally, it used to be 1 week a month, and now I go about once a quarter. I'm self-contracted, so I can go when I want, and it really works out well with Bill's politics. Um, I really like living in a small town. I like um, I like relationships and associating with people. I enjoy politics myself. I enjoy learning, supporting Phil because we live so far away. We're 5.5 hours from Salt Lake City.
Yeah,
If I didn't come with him in support, we just wouldn't be together. And we kind of determined early in our marriage that we would be a together couple. And so we support each other that way, and he supports me as well in what I do. Anyway, I like to remodel and redecorate and paint rooms in my house. I like home shows, like on
Yeah,
HGTV. I like babysitting my grandkids. I like to travel and see different areas. Um, Pretty
that's
much just
awesome.
participating in the simple community life that we have.
Yeah, that's great. And what do you think all of that stuff and just how you've lived your life will contribute to say if Phil does get elected, or I'm going to say when Phil gets elected, we're going to have that mindset. When Phil gets elected and you become First Lady of Utah, what kind of um, how will your background contribute to that role, and what kind of impact do you want to have on Utah in that role, should you serve in it?
Well, I have thought a little bit about that. I tell people, let's take it one step at a time. But
Yeah.
I am very passionate about teaching our youth civics and about the Constitution. And actually, I went to a David Barton uh, speech. We went to a Eagle Forum speech, and he was there, and I was so inspired by some of the things he said. And I thought, I know my grandchildren aren't learning this in their schools like they used to. And he had information that was just deeper. And so on the way home, I decided to do cookies in the Constitution with my grandkids. And they love that. One of the things we've done, we get together and have little lessons. We've got a project that we're going to do where we are going to let them um, draft their own bill, whether it's not, whether or not to have donuts every Monday, very simple, fun bills for them, and then
Yeah.
have them argue it or debate it on the floor and maybe take it to committee and let them feel the process. But they've also memorized the preamble of the Constitution. And it is so fun to see your grandkids just grasp onto it and start to understand the importance of that. And in the preamble, it talks about how this is all for us, our posterity, to have liberty for us and our posterity. And I love that. I think that civics should be taught more in depth in the schools as well. For instance, little things like when a state of emergency is declared, there is you can have no bid contracts. That's dropped. There's different funds that can be used, and that may vary from state to state, but it's just good for kids to know or to grow up knowing what a state of emergency brings or what the process is of getting a bill or how things are decided. And I don't know if that's something that all schools have, and that would be kind of my passion.
No, that's great. It really is a problem now with kids learning civics. It's really taken a back seat in education and isn't prioritized. We definitely need to be putting in more programs like I don't know if you've heard of the We the People program. That's throughout the high schools and some middle schools. I'm doing it in my high school, where it's basically simulated congressional hearings based on the Constitution. You're arguing for the Constitution, and we definitely need more of that. So I think that that emphasis is amazing and something that we truly need right now. So and the cookies and the Constitution that's awesome. I think I've seen you post something about, or maybe it was Phil, post
I think,
something about that. But
yeah,
no,
yeah, I think
that's
that's
great
great. I'm glad to know. And I've heard of We the People, and I didn't know what they teach in the grade school level. Um, I'd like to just have it be broader. And I'm so glad that we have the We the People program as well. It's wonderful.
for sure. We definitely need more of it. The next question I want to ask you is kind of going back to the campaign. What would you say is your favorite part of the campaign, um, and the least or hardest part about a campaign?
Well, I think the people. I enjoy meeting new people, and there's such great people all around the state, and everybody's so interesting. It's nice to meet new people all over the state. That's probably my favorite part, and getting to see different areas and visiting those areas, seeing people in their own element. Probably the hardest part is being on the road during the campaign. That can be rough. We haven't been home since January 12th. So,
Wow.
but it is legislative session. So we've been gone a long
Yeah.
time. Um, but I enjoy it. We're together. We've got a good team. And so that I'd probably say that's the worst.
Yeah.
Some people might say the negative comments, the negative things. We had quite a bit of negative come after Phil's situation when he was in the county commission. And I have to say, I think we've learned to navigate it pretty well. You don't
Yeah.
read the trib, you don't read the comments in the trib ever. So
Right. Well, I was going to ask you about that, how the negative aspect of people coming at you, because politics is an ugly world. No matter what side you're on, Republican, Democrat, anywhere in the middle, it's ugly. And it can be hard. I mean, even just doing what I do and getting some comments. It can be hard to read some of that stuff that people post, but you really just got to realize that, you're in it for the right reasons. And, there's, we have each other, right? And you and Phil clearly have a great relationship where you guys stay together and you support each other. So I'm sure that definitely helps in the support of your family, because that can be really hard, especially when you're so passionate about something and people are just trying to, chuck punch you down every step you take. But
I like your attitude. I think that's exactly right. There's many for you, many share your beliefs. Other people have different opinions. How they express them is their choice and their privilege. And truly, you just kind of snap your wristband and move on. You don't get too deep into. You don't dwell on it. You just realize that's part of the game. It's part
right,
of the situation.
right.
It just is.
Yeah. So I kind of want to shift gears a little bit as we near the end here. Our state and our country is all struggling in many ways under the leadership that we have, both on state level and at the federal level. Um, what I want to ask you is, how do we return to the values that shape this country? What do we need to do as a society to come together and really, as President Trump's campaign slogan is, "Make America Great Again"?
Yeah, I think that adhering to the Constitution, we have a great template as to how to run this nation, run our states. I think state sovereignty is really important. If we as a state, act like a state and strengthen ourselves, it's only going to make the rest of the nation stronger as states become stronger. I also think that the collapse of the family is the collapse of the nation. Phil says something like that quite often. And I believe prioritizing families, making it easy to have not easy to have a family, but doable to have a family through legislation and policy with tax and, all the regulations that come out. We need to make it possible and, have families be a priority. And I think that through that, and also caring about one another. I think that caring about one another, and I think patriotism and love of our state, caring about what goes on around us, and being aware of those around us, I think will make the nation great.
I couldn't agree more with all that you just said. And to end here, I just want to ask you one more question. What is your message to Utah?
Oh, I love Utah so much, and I'm so excited to have children that live in the state of Utah. I would have to say I like Phil's slogan, there's better roads ahead. I feel like our best days are ahead. I think that there's many exciting things happening. There's a lot of unrest and unsettling things happening in our nation and around the world that seem to affect us. But I would have to say, um, if we stick together, if we follow the templates that we have, um, we're going to come out stronger and better for it. I've seen it in our own lives through our own challenges. And I think that the same is going to hold true for the nation and our state.
I couldn't agree more. And I I'm hoping and praying, and I'm going to do all that I can to help get Phil elected, to get you two in the governor's mansion, because that's what our state needs. Our state needs to come together around the very values and principles that built this state and this country as a whole. Because, like you said, and Phil's campaign slogan, better roads are ahead, and we just have to come together and work towards that. So, Jody, thank you so much for coming on and doing this interview. I'm really honored.
Thank you so much, Chase.